everybody, welcome back to Rich Back Creations. Today I'm going to make the Elixir jar potion bottle from the Lazarus Machine from one of my favorite movies of all time, Casper or Casper The Friendly Ghost. And can you believe it's been 25 years since it got out and I feel I'm getting older by the minute. I think it's a perfect decoration now for Halloween for any Casper fan or non-Casper fan, because I do think it fits in with a lot of the other decorations we've been doing so far this month. And without any more talking, let's get started. Starting off this project, just like the other ones I've done now recently, I made a sketch of the different components that I wanted the project to have, and I did make some basic circles as a guideline for the different parts. The bottom one, the biggest one, was a little bit too small, like the mid circle, so as a tip, do make this one a little bit bigger than I did compared to the size of the bottle. But anyways, I did get the bottle I just ordered it online. I did order a couple of different sizes, but only one size came in the mail, so I just had to use that one. Didn't really have any options, but I think that was a 300 milliliter bottle and it worked really well. The first thing I began with was the little spring that was going to be on the inside of the bottle, and the thickness of that is pretty much the same one as a AAA battery, but I did have a tool that was the same width, so I used that because it was easier to hold on to. So for the spring, I made a little top screw that I painted gold after I had baked it once, and I made sure that the screw was going to fit into it. I spray painted the spring silver, and I did add some black paint to the screw so that it looked a little bit weathered. I just made sure to wipe it off before it dried. Then I proceeded to glue all those parts together and attach them to the little plastic cap that came with the bottle. Once I was done with the spring, I moved on to the cap of the project, and that was just really a straight piece of clay rolled up into a circle, and that I made sure fit onto the bottle quite snugly. Then I proceeded to add a lot of snakes or sausages of clay. This project is pretty much rolling clay over and over again in different sizes, and I hate saying sausages of clay, and that's pretty much what I have to say throughout this video. But yeah, I was rolling up a piece for the bottom. This probably could have been a little bit bigger, and I just made sure the sides were flat, and then I shoved in my barbecue skewers on 4 sides so that I could glue them in later on. Then I measured a ring for the mid part, which could definitely have been a little bit bigger because it ended up not fitting on the mid. It was just kind of at the bottom of the bottle as well, so definitely make that one bigger if you have time. Then I made a ring for the top cap part, and I did bake it, and then I attached it to the cap after it was baked. Like, they fit quite snugly. For this project, I actually used some molds of screws that I had laying around from my Edward Scissorhand project that I made for Max last year for Halloween, and I thought the mold was perfect because then I didn't have to sculpt all the screws. But if you don't have a mold, you can always sculpt the screws, but I do recommend sculpting and baking and then gluing them on rather than sculpting them onto the bottle directly. So the screws pretty much just shoved some clay in, cut off the excess and baked them. Here you can see I've attached the ring onto the cap at the top, and it's fitting quite snugly. You can probably glue it on if they're a little bit loose, but mine just fit like a glove, so I didn't really have to think about that. Then for the mid ring, I'm now just adding flat pieces on 4 sides, and after I'm done and happy with those, I'm just rolling out another thinner, smaller piece and adding that on the outside of that one again, so you get this sort of, I don't know, increasing sizes of rings on all the 4 sides. For these 4 sides, I just made sure to poke small little holes on the top and the bottom for the barbecue skewers. Then I proceeded to bake it, and that's pretty much it for the mid ring. For the top cap, it's pretty much the same thing, making flat pieces, adding them on 4 sides, then adding a little thinner, thicker piece on top of that, and poking the barbecue skewer on the bottom on all 4 sides. Additionally, before baking it a second time, I did add a pretty big and thick ring on top of it. So kind of just shoved it on to the small four sides. Then I'm just adding a smaller ring on the inside. This is pretty much just support for the layers that I will build on top, so it doesn't really have to look a specific way. Then for the last sculptural parts, I began to add a circle on top of the previously sculpted parts. And I did cut out a hole so that it would fit the cap. Then I kind of figured out quite quickly that the silver part in the middle of the bottle was too tall and it was just really in the way of what I was doing. So I just quickly took the cap off and took the silver thing out and then continued sculpting the top sections. This part is probably a little bit confusing because I actually did my sculpt quite wrong for the longest time. But I was supposed to cut in 4 squares into that top part that you're seeing that I'm doing right now. But originally I actually had them placed on the outside. So the squares was going out instead of in. So if you see me jumping a little bit back and forth with them, they're supposed to go inwards, not outwards. And then I just sculpted a real quick little handle or attachment for the big ring on the bottle, and it was just 2 sausages rolled out, one smaller than the other one, then attaching a little circle on the end. The 2 final things to sculpt was the black cap going on top of the bottle and a little gold decoration piece that was going to go on the top of that again. Just rolled out a piece of clay, then squeezed out the edges and made sure that it was having a little bit of an edge on the top and that it was nice and flush with the black cap on the bottom. I just sprayed all the parts gold except for the black cap that was going on the top, and I just did that off camera because it was dark and I was doing it outside. But it's just like with the spraying in the beginning, just take it out and spray paint it. Then it was the assembly of the bottle. I was just making sure that all my little barbecue skewers were fitting quite nicely. Then I glued them on to the mid-ring, then I glued them on to the bottom. The mid-ring I wish was a lot bigger, which you can definitely see at this stage. Then I was just measuring out the barbecue skewers that was going from the mid to the top and just adjusting them and gluing them on as I went along. It ended up being a little bit wonky, and that's especially because of the mid-ring not being big enough. Some of the last things I did was gluing on the screws and the black cap and the little attachment for the gold ring on top. And I probably would have used super glue for a lot of this, but I finally got my glue gun refilled and I didn't actually have any super glue, but I think it worked out pretty well nonetheless. I didn't really do any weathering on the project because I did actually try to avoid completely gold spraying everything so that I kept a little bit of the black in the nooks and crannies of the project. But you can do whatever you want. If you wanted to make it brand new looking or a little bit aged, that is completely up to you. So this is the finished project for this week. I would have done things a little bit differently if I had more time, but sometimes you don't. I just want to say that me and Max appreciate you guys so much. You're so sweet, so cool, so everything. I can't even put it into words. We're really grateful for everyone. And if there's anyone new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button and follow us along if you like what we do on this channel. Without any more talking today, thank you so much for watching.